See, the four of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world.
Let me just start out asking about the title and just your thoughts on what is it about a cabin that makes such a great sort of start to any horror or horror adjacent movie? Why is it such a compelling location?
You know, I think the idea of being isolated from society, the kind of urge that we have when we go on vacation or, you know, to get away from it all, is a perfect setup for something terrible to happen because you now don't have any way to reach anybody. So the cabin idea feels very vulnerable. So it's a perfect kind of setup for a dark genre.
Did you have any sort of a favorite spooky cabin movies going into this before making this?
You know, they weren't cabins necessarily, but like, you know, Night of the Living Dead, you know, is this house that they end up in, and so it has that feeling to me. And even the birds, where they end up in like an isolated house. And again, it's not in the woods or anything like that, but I think that in this case, the cabin in the woods have a feeling of like almost like a fairy tale quality to it. And that's how I felt about the movie and how Leonard and Wen feel at the beginning. We're at the beginning of a fairy tale.
Families throughout history have been chosen to make this decision. Your family must choose to willingly sacrifice one of the three of you to prevent the apocalypse.
Rupert Grint had an interesting quote where he was talking about how this movie kind of blends a home invasion story with this apocalyptic story. Can you talk about that and sort of what it was like overlapping something that's very small and kind of easy to identify, that fear, with this much bigger sort of grandiose idea that can also be a fear in the back of people's minds?
I think it's such a wonderful juxtaposition of those two genres because if you really think about the structure of those two genres, if they're overlapping, they're gonna cause a flip a little bit because the protagonist-antagonist switch in the two genres as you touch them together. It's a really fascinating exercise of screenplay format. I love both the genres a lot. There are kind of two primal fears kind of put together.
Andrew, I saw something. There was something in the light. And I feel it now.
Technique-wise, there's a lot of people talking straight to camera. What was it about this story that kind of felt like this is the right way that, you know, these very intimate conversations you'd depict it that way?
You know, it was meant to convey a certain kind of preternatural connection between the characters that are looking at the camera. And, you know, we start the movie with it, and then we return to it later in the piece with two other characters who are doing that as well. And it's to convey a kind of like they understand each other on a kind of a soul level. That's what I was trying to convey, that they're deeply connected in a way that they're almost the same, you know, mirrors of each other. And at one point it's the child and Leonard, and then at another point it's two other characters.
Win!
Dave Bautista, his look combined with his manner of speaking and this sort of innate thoughtfulness, he makes him such a unique presence. Can you talk about working with him and, you know, what made him this sort of perfect Leonard?
It was almost like Leonard, you know, they knew who Dave was and they wrote Leonard. It was weird. He's like this giant that's very vulnerable, very caring. He's worried he's gonna say the wrong thing. He has that quality about him, and Leonard has that quality, and yet he has this dogma, a belief system that he lives his life by. And so Dave and Leonard are very, very in sync in that. And, you know, finding the right actor at the right time is the beautiful part. And, you know, Dave was just at the perfect place in his life for me to make this ask of him. Would you come and do this character that has, you know, endless pages of monologues, but you're gonna have to be risk everything, you know, and you're gonna go past your comfort zone on this.
I will ask for the last time. Will you make a choice?